welcome back to Soulful and Silver. I am so excited for my guest today, Julie. She works with adoptees, and I'm going to let her explain a little bit more about her, but I think this will be a really interesting topic. And I think it will resonate with people that obviously have come from an adopted family or know someone that's adopted in their family or even their friends. So, welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you, Chrissy.
Yeah, so I kind of want to know a little bit about your background, kind of what brought you to helping this population. One could imagine you are adopted, but what kind of drew you to actually helping people? And share a little bit about your journey to get here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the soulful and sober idea is beautiful. And my upbringing was obviously in my adopted family. I had an alcoholic father and a codependent mother. So that was kind of what I was raised in. Not kind of, I was raised in that. And so there was definitely just an understanding of that behavior as a part of my life. I didn't know any different because it was what I was raised with. So when I went to school, I decided to go into a helping profession. And what ended up happening was I had to get a master's in it to be able to actually practice. And I didn't want to do that and ended up getting married instead and, had kids and did all of that. And once I realized that I had kind of missed, it felt like an opportunity in my life. I decided I'm in my 30s. I can still do what I want to do. And so I went back and got my master's degree in counseling. And the reason why is because I noticed in my own relationship, there was some addictive behavior going on. And it isn't surprising to me that we, even without the adoption and the trauma that goes on with that, and we can talk about that later, but that we choose what we know and what we feel comfortable with. We energetically draw in that, right? And in my mind, I thought, well, I can fix this. I can, as a good little codependent that I took on and learned, I can fix this. I can't fix another human, but that's what I really believed. And so when I realized and worked through all of that, my own recovery, like 12-step recovery, actually, is what I did for years, starting in 2005. I knew at that point that there was a purpose beyond this. Now, I hadn't really understood that my adoption had any impact on me at this point. Went back, realized that I wanted to specialize in addiction and recovery. And so that's what I did. I got my master's degree in counseling with a specialty in addictions and recovery and worked with that and, with that population for about 10 years and really enjoyed it. And then about 2 years ago, I was listening to a podcast by a dear friend of mine, Kelly Brock, and I got this almost like, you may understand what I'm talking about, like chills went all over my body. It was almost like I felt as if I was being hit by lightning. And I heard, you need to stop what you're doing and work with adoptees, like literally
Oh,
audibly
I
in my,
just got goosebumps.
and I was like, what does that even mean? And how would I do that? And what was interesting is at the time was I was in a coaching program, learning about somatic healing. And I had noticed this whole new transformation of something that I had been searching for my entire life. Some sort of deep healing that I had been development work was my thing, man. I mean, my husband at the time would have said, "You're the hardest worker I know." And he would tell you that now. And we're not even together. Like, I worked on myself really, really hard. I hid behind it though. Like it was something that I felt I could use as a shield. So what was interesting is when this came up, when I heard this and the somatic healing was going on at the same time, I was like, what does this mean? And how do I move forward with this? So that's kind of where that started. And so it took about a year for me to kind of build up the courage. I moved into a business coaching program and started learning about how to build that kind of thing. And I built a coaching program in the last year, and I've been working with adoptees since then. And the correlation and connection with addiction and adoption is actually kind of shocking. Like we were talking before we started recording, we are twice as likely to have an addictive behavior of some sort as the general population, as adoptees. And so it was really interesting that that was my original goal, was to help that population and have that knowledge, because it's actually helped me to understand the adoptee population even better, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. I, like, have all these goosebumps 'cause it's so interesting sometimes the road we take and the download that is so cool, and I can totally, get that and relate. But
Mhm.
I'm really interested in learning more about, like, just the addiction component too with adoptees and why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think it's similar to most people who choose addictive behaviors. It's that I there's this trauma that is within them that they have no words for. And so because a lot of adoptees were adopted in that, very impressionable first, like for me it was in the first 7 weeks of my life. And
Mhm.
within that time, and even before, like even in the womb, my birth mother attempted to abort me twice. So there is just this deep cellular almost knowing in us that we're not supposed to be here, we shouldn't exist, we're defective. Those things, without us even understanding how to put words to them, exist within our biology when we're given up. We are not kept. And so when that happens, there's a preverbal trauma that occurs that I call primal trauma. And it is damaging for a baby. And a lot of people can't fully understand that because in their minds they think, well, they're a baby, they'll be fine, right? They're a blank slate. As in my day in the 70s when I was adopted, that's what people believed. You're adopting a blank slate baby. But when we think about that, think about a puppy. How long does the puppy get to be with its mother? You don't get to adopt a puppy until they're like 6 to 8 weeks old, right?
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
don't.
They have
It's
there's rules.
correct. They don't exist in adoption, which I just think is weird. Like, that doesn't make any sense. A day after you pull a child from their genetics and give them to genetic strangers, there's going to be some shock to that system. So, all of that to say, that trauma lives in our body. What I experienced was the need for me, it was I need other people. That's why I became, in a lot of ways, codependent, the people pleaser, the chameleon.
Mhm.
A lot of adoptees are like this. I will do anything I can to fit in, to be accepted, because I just don't know where I belong. I don't even know what that feels like. I don't know what it looks like to have a genetic mirror of myself. I didn't grow up with that. I look at these people and they don't look like me, and we don't share genetics, so we don't share similarities. It's weird. But because that's all you know, you you don't want to question because you don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you find ways to medicate, just like anybody would who is dealing with any type of trauma, sexual abuse. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We numb, we avoid the pain, we do whatever we can to not have to face these things that maybe we don't have the ability or strength to face yet. That's why I really trust the timing of what I call our onion, like Shrek,
Mhm.
ogres are like onions. There's layers that we're able to deal with, and as we begin to develop the strength to deal with them, then they can be uncovered. But before that, a lot of times we medicate to get through things, and that's what adoptees do when it comes to addictive behaviors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely with the healing too and the trauma, and I do think that's a huge component, right? Like that bond after you're born and the touch and, that's something that, like, people that like myself are not adopted, like, we don't think about that, right? We know who mom and dad is, and even if mom and dad aren't the greatest parents, we have that biological, you know, lineage, so to speak. So, yeah,
Yep.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's crazy because when I think about the first 7 weeks of my life, I didn't even realize that it had impacted me until one of my professors early on in my program, when I started my master's program, told me, if you don't deal with the skeletons in your closet around adoption, you will harm people. And I didn't even know what the
Wow.
heck she was talking about. I was like, what do you even mean? My adoption hasn't harmed me at all. And she was like, it has. You need to deal with it. And okay. It really, really shocked me. So that was in 2010. And as I began to explore that, I realize now looking back what she meant, because in that first 7 weeks of life, not only did I have the two attempted abortions between 12 and 16 weeks gestation, I also had, as soon as I was born, I was taken directly, I mean, like whisked away. They didn't put you into your mother's arms. You didn't even get to be with your birth mother or your biological mother. They whisked me away into the nursery. I had another random woman come and hold me. This was in the paperwork, which I think is crazy. She actually asked my birth mother if she could take me. Weird stuff happening in the hospital. She went and held me and came back and told my birth mother, I held her. Please don't give her away to anybody else. My birth mom is like, get out of here. Like, this is in the paperwork, which I
Oh
think
my
is crazy.
gosh.
Yeah. Then they give me to a foster family that I was with for 7 weeks. So during that time, my birth mother disappeared. So she didn't sign the papers away. They couldn't give me to anybody because I hadn't been officially relinquished, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm with this foster family, and they say we can no longer accommodate this baby and give me back to the state. All in 7 weeks. That first 7 weeks of my life. So you
Oh,
can
it's sad.
imagine, right,
Yeah.
like the not being wanted, the being passed what is a caregiver to me at this point? Not safe.
And you learn too that, like, I can't hold on too long because I'm gonna get ripped away, right?
Exactly. Hence the reason that when that comes up later, for me, without even knowing that that's what was coming up, because it was showing up in my relationships from early on, there was I have to throw myself into this person and make this person like me in order to be okay. Because the only way I was able to survive then was to not have boundaries. If I would have had boundaries at a seven, as a 7 week old and said, I need to go back to my birth mother, she didn't exist. She left. I wouldn't have survived. I had to go with whatever, wherever I was given, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
No, no, that makes sense.
I learned from an early age that boundaries weren't safe, but they are. But that's what my nervous system learned.
Yeah.
So when my mom that raised me would try to comfort me and nurture me and love me, I literally stiff armed her. Touch scared me by caregivers because of what I had experienced. So I would do this whenever literally, she tells me I would push her away as an infant. There's something there. And so that lived in my body. And I think over time, obviously, I felt safe and I was fine in my family, but there was still that piece that influenced me into my present, sometimes
Yeah.
even still. I can fear abandonment. And I have to, even from crazy things like my children sometimes that are adults now, I can think that they're going to leave me. I'm like, "Oh, hold on a minute. We aren't going back down that rabbit hole anymore." It's really really interesting.
No, that is, and I wanna share something too, because I mean, it doesn't have, like, the exact, same thing that happened to you, but there is studies that I mean, maybe they're not the most humane studies with, like, animals, like rats and
Mhm.
stuff, where the mother will be pregnant and they'll
Yeah,
smash something and they'll get anxious and startle, and then the baby will be born and have the same reaction, but never been exposed previously, just in the womb.
yeah,
So, even being in a womb with a mother that doesn't want their child or
right.
whatever they're doing, I think that that can have a huge impact just from the studies that have been done.
No, you're absolutely right. There have been studies on that in utero experience, maternal stress. And the crazy thing is the heart is the first organ to develop and then the brain. So I find that fascinating. But the brain the time by the time that I was attempted to be aborted was fully developed, between 12 and 16 weeks. So, fully developed in that it was there, it was
Yeah.
shaped, it was in,
Yeah.
Um, I I feel for my little self, and I've had to, like, go back and have little interactions with her and nurture her and let her know that I've got her and that I'm here for her, because that self, that part of me has really impacted my relationships, sadly.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't like for me personally, it wasn't a substance. It was humans. It was people were my drug. Meaning if a person said that I was okay, then I was okay. I had no worth within
Yeah.
myself. I couldn't find it.
And I actually am the same way. Um, I think that drinking masked a lot of the things I was feeling. I didn't have that awareness. So when I stopped drinking and started to do like a business and do more things, that's where I was like, oh boy, like I got really tested.
Mhm.
And so that I can kind of resonate with the worthiness and then the people pleasing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people that do drink, there's some type of trauma, right? Like there's something going
Mhm.
on for us, and it's not that necessarily the drinking caused it. It was just a
Right.
byproduct of something else, and we just carried it through to now or whenever. And to me, it's like those are like transformations that we have to work on. I always
Mhm.
spin things. Obviously, I wish that wouldn't have happened to you, but
Oh,
think,
sure.
but I also think at some point too, like you have to look at like the things that we've gone through as this is like sometimes a gift. Like we are meant to do this work because we have to show somebody how to do the work, right? Because we have to go through it ourselves.
I agree.
And so I like that you like did the somatic work and did all this because I think we can do amazing things and not be totally healed, right? But we need to have awareness so we can get somewhat of a healing process and path.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. I think when you talk about the different things, there's been so many things that I've done to get to where I am, but I would like even with my past marriage relationship, I'm grateful for what it did for me and who I became in it. I became a better human because of the challenges that
Mhm.
I experienced during that time. I wouldn't be who I am without it. I wouldn't be who I am without even just this understanding that I've developed over the last really 5 years about how my adoption trauma did impact me. And if I didn't know that, then I wouldn't be able to be as present of a human being as I am today. I just wouldn't have because my trauma ended up overshadowing a lot of things for a lot of time, and part of that was it showed up in my body. It did. I had pain in my lower back and my hips. I ended up having psoriasis all over my body. I had stuff in my shoulders, my neck for years. So my body had been trying to tell me, and I would get these diagnoses and all these things thrown at me.
Yep.
And I'd
Yep.
be like, okay, let me just go take another drug, or let me just, go to another ortho, and oh, they're going to recommend surgery. I mean, there was no like, let me actually pause and tune in and see what's actually going on here. And once I started doing that, that's when things started to shift for me. That's when I was able to release what I was holding. And that was probably the biggest transformation for me because we resist pain. And addiction, it's not just addiction, but drinking allows us to resist pain. It makes us uninhibited, less inhibited, right? But when we realize there's a life beyond this and that life is more um rich and not as deadened when I do something like avoid the drinking or choose not to or whatever that is, I free up the energy for me to, like you have, write books or start a business. So it's once we actually are willing to take like lean into the pain and get to the other side of it and allow it to do its work and grow us, it's beautiful. It's just hard. That's hard work, and it's worth doing. It's worth doing is what I can say.
I 100% agree. So even when I stopped drinking, there'd be things that would happen in my life and I wasn't dealing with them.
Mhm.
I think maybe too as a protection mechanism as well. And then also sometimes we just need things to shit on us before we're like, okay, I'm going to listen now. Things
Yeah.
are getting pretty bad. And speaking of like in your body, having like pain and other
Mhm.
issues, it's so true. So this, and I could be totally wrong about this, but this is my intuition. So I actually had low white blood count for like a really long time. And I'm like, I kept getting sick.
Mhm.
And my primary doctor is like, let's just have you go to a hemonc and, hematology oncology
Mhm. Mhm.
and make sure you don't have anything seriously wrong with you. I didn't think I did, but then, so she just did her due diligence. I went, they're like, you're fine. I'm like, okay. Maybe I just have low white blood count and this is what it is. And so once I found the truth out about something in my personal life, it was the wildest thing. It like released something. It was
Mhm.
like I think my body knew the things were not going well and there was a lot of issues, but my mind was like, "No, we're good." And so your body, like you said, your body kind of keeps there's a book, I didn't make this up. The body keeps the
Yeah.
score, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I figured it out, I'm not kidding you, my white blood count is now normal and living its best life, and I'm like the moment that happened, I'm like, "It's because I was under so much fricking stress. This is how my body was reacting. It didn't know any better."
Mhm.
And
Yeah, because it
yes,
learns how to survive in the chaos.
correct.
Just talking about this yesterday, for me, I cycled through a lot of the trauma states. I would go from fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and flop, which is a more new one, very, very consistently, not even knowing that that's what I was doing because it was comfortable.
Mhm.
It's what felt right, because that's how I entered into the world, was in this chaos of, "Who are you?" And, like, it's like, literally, "Who is my mother?" I don't know which one of you is gonna
Yeah.
be the one that I'm supposed to attach to, which that is such an important part of the first 2 years of our life is attachment, and when it's interrupted like that, no wonder I was so disorganized in my life. Not, actual physical disorganization, but, like, disorganized in my attachment. I would
Yeah.
cycle from, like, avoidant to anxious all the time because to me, I didn't know how to do any differently. It's
Yeah.
what my nervous system knew. It's that whole idea of, our nervous system will not allow us to enter into an unfamiliar heaven because it's so used to a familiar hell. And that was kind of where I was for a long time because it's what I knew. And so the fear of being uncomfortable with something that was healthy was really difficult for me. And I had to kind of like tread lightly into that when I started because my nervous system couldn't handle it. So it was slow processes that I did, like hand over heart, self hugs. I would even sometimes at night, like literally rock myself slowly because I just never really had that and or allowed it even in my life. So when I felt the pain, whatever that looked like, whereas before I would try to medicate it in some way, now I'm allowing myself to actually go there, feel the emotions, allow the energy to move through me. And then once I'm done with that, awesome. I now am on the other side of that pain versus trying to medicate it. So that's been what's really been helpful for me.
Yeah, and I think that's so beautiful. And I think the nervous system is such an important topic to talk about, in what you're doing and,
Mhm.
obviously what I'm doing as well, because and just to kind of give like context to people that are like totally brand new to the nervous system. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about is like, the fight, flight, freeze, and then fawn.
Hmm.
So people pleasing's the fawn and like,
Hmm.
sometimes we don't have motivation. We kind of feel like oh, we just can't get up and do things. And so sometimes it really is just like this. It's not that you're unmotivated, it's the fact that your nervous system is taxed and it just can't
Hmm.
handle it. And sometimes we don't have awareness. So what you are talking about is awareness.
Hmm.
And so sometimes what happens when we stop drinking is even when we're drinking, but a lot of times people stop drinking, there's this thing that happens where they're like, they're experiencing things differently, and I don't care if you're drinking 7 days a week or you're drinking on the weekend. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. A lot of people have nervous system and healing to do nervous system
Mhm.
regulation and healing to do once they stop drinking, and awareness that they don't necessarily always have when they're drinking because something happens, they drink, and they don't, process it. Like, what you're talking
Mhm.
about is, you didn't process it, and
Mhm.
so it's not uncommon for people to go from drinking to something else or to drink again because they can't handle the
Right.
immense emotions, and like you said, if you're used to chaos or certain behaviors,
Mhm.
again, if you're like a people pleaser, I I thought people wanted me to drink, and the last time I drank, I was like, "Well," my then husband, I'm like, "I'm just gonna, he wants me to drink, and people want me to drink," and so I went to this people pleasing mentality. And
Mhm.
so I think all this is important because this does happen when we stop drinking. We have certain things or like when if someone I'm sure someone, we'll talk a little more about that, but if someone enters your program, you probably can tell right away okay, we need to work on the
Mhm.
nervous system regulation. There's
Mhm.
rightfully so too because I do think our childhood 100% shapes us. We know this. We know our limiting
Mhm.
beliefs are molded in our childhood. So it makes
Mhm.
sense when we get into our adulthood it starts, kind of, self sabotaging and having all these things happen.
Right. Yeah. And what you were talking about just now, when people enter into my program, one of the first things I have them do is the saboteur assessment. I don't know if you've
Oh, yeah,
heard.
yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah, so I have them do that because it actually helps me to know, is their nervous system literally on fire? And most people who enter into my program as adoptees, it is. There's probably 5 to 7 of the saboteurs that are very high, and it's out of 10. And so we're talking like above 5, so over the middle of that number. And what I've found is as we work through the different phases of my program and focus on the body and teach them how to deal with things as they come versus medicating them or versus avoiding them, that's where we begin to see the saboteurs lower when we have them at the end of the program rank them again. And so that's been really interesting for me to see is there is a shift that's clearly happening here, and there's an ability to, because we've now moved that trauma out of our body, first acknowledged it, become aware of it, right? Like you talked about, takes awareness. First, we become aware of it, gotten to a place of acceptance of it, recognizing that it produces shame and guilt responses in us, whatever that may be, whatever the trauma may be. A lot of times we think it's our fault that some of this stuff has happened to us, right? We take responsibility for things that aren't ours. And then it's learning how to show ourselves compassion in the moment, and that to me is a real game changer. Learning how to show yourself compassion when something happens that triggers you, because a lot of times we don't like triggers. Those activations we want to run from, and those triggers are what as an addict leads us to use. It's learning how to show ourselves compassion in that moment. Like, well, it makes sense that you would be triggered by that. The whole hand over heart thing, showing
Mhm,
ourselves kindness. I'm not the only one that has been through something like this. There's people out there that I know I can communicate with that understand what I'm dealing with. It's it's that type of compassion that helps us move into this place of being able to name our feelings, take responsibility for what's going on, and that's where the transformation begins to happen because we're now it's that whole idea of naming things to tame them, right? You got to name it to tame it. It's really, really fascinating to me when I watch an adoptee move in these little imperceptible shifts, and it's the same even with the addictive population that I worked with for years. You can see them move through these things as they begin the light begins to dawn. They come out of that denial. They're able to see, oh my gosh, this actually can be good without me having to medicate. I actually
mhm,
can live my life in a way that I don't need to numb. It's a beautiful thing. And then they begin to actually love themselves. And I think the biggest piece for me has been finding my belonging inside of me, not from another human. Because for years, that's what I did. And once I realized I'm never going to get what I actually need from another human, I'm truly not.
mhm,
It's within me. And I have to learn how to nurture that within myself and how to feed that and allow myself to love myself in that way. It sounds kind of weird, but
Mm,
it's I don't know, it's been such a beautiful thing for me to be able to realize that I got me and I know I've got my own back. And that's kind of cool.
yeah. No, and I love that. And I also think too, as women, you know, we're told, sometimes by our families, by the media, like we have certain roles and we're supposed to be quiet and just do this and do that. So I think, for a lot of women too, coming into this beautiful space, like you're saying, is just like loving myself and knowing that I need to make myself happy. We can't make everybody happy. That's not our jobs.
Mm-mm.
And part of the healing, I think that's important in your population with addiction is really like turning inward
Mhm.
and, calming your nervous system. Like you said, to put your hand over your heart,
Mhm.
rocking yourself. It can be honestly, um, breath work. It can
Yeah.
be journaling. There's so many different things you can do that depends on what you resonate with. An interesting thing for my book that I was researching is so they say, like, sometimes people that do cold plunges, you hear
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so great, but they said you have to be careful if your nervous system's super duper dysregulated, going in a massive cold plunge can actually make it worse.
Oh, yeah.
They
I
say
believe it.
yeah, because it's like your body's, like, in that, like, survival, and now it's really in survival, but they
Mhm.
did say that putting your, like, let's say putting, like, small parts of your body in cold water, like your
Mhm.
face in ice
Yep.
water, and they actually even said warm baths are actually good too for people that, and when I say dysregulated, I mean, like, that are again, you're in that fight, flight, freeze,
Yeah.
and you
Yep.
can't calm yourself,
Mhm.
and so, like, they said actually warm stuff like a bath is actually really helpful too, to kinda
Mhm.
calm the nervous system and relax you, so I was like, "That's interesting." I didn't I never really thought about it, but, I think it's kind of an interesting thing too. Um, yoga, there's so
Yep.
many different things you can do that helps ground you, just depends on what resonates with people. Taking walks,
Yep.
I love that with music is kinda my jam,
Mhm.
and I also think too, like what you do, Julie, is finding a program that can help support you because
Mhm.
honestly, there's a lot of things that we don't know until we get that
Right.
person that's been through it, but they also can give us tools and show us a different way to think about things and go about it so we can heal in a faster method, in a maybe a faster way, right? Because
Mhm.
a lot of times we think we can do everything by ourselves.
Well, I think we can not want to bother people with the things that we're experiencing because we can feel like a burden. At least
Yeah.
I can. I can feel like I'm a nuisance. I can feel like I'm a burden. And what I've realized is my authentic self was meant to be here. And so there are things that I was put on this earth to do that I feel called to do. And like even what you're describing, when I work with somebody that is dealing with nervous system dysregulation, I mean, we know, I'm sure you know this, that alcohol itself is a nervous system depressant. So anytime you put a foreign substance like that into your body, it's going to mess with your nervous system.
Yep.
And so it's learning how, in those states, when we're heightened, like specifically with anxiety, breath work a lot of times doesn't work with anxiety because it makes it worse. And so it's figuring out what is that. One of the things that I recommend for clients who are dealing with that is, do you have a weighted blanket? Like go grab the blanket and wrap yourself in it. There's certain, like you talked about, warmth sometimes
Mhm.
can help. It depends on which actual trauma state you're in. I actually have a Oh, maybe I could share those with you. I have a grounding bundle that has things listed under each state that you can do
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
that is really, really helpful. And I love it because whenever I can tell, oh my gosh, my heart is beating really fast. I can't seem to calm it. I go to that knowing what that means. And then I look and I wish I had it memorized, but I look and I'm like, okay, awesome. I know what I can do. Right now, I think what I need is to just go put my feet out in the grass and look at the sky and just allow myself to let the
Mhm.
sun, pour over me. Whatever it may be, it could be something very simple. And that's what I tell people is like, this isn't rocket science. It's literally doing things that allow us to connect with ourselves in a way that we've not really attempted since we were smaller.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then even interrupting, like, the monkey brain, right?
Mhm.
'Cause, yeah, your heart rate, I mean, you know, your heart rate, if you start paying attention to something else or, like, the different grounding things, yeah, you're right, can
Mhm.
distract you and get you back to more of a normal state where you're breathing normal, your heart rate's,
Mhm.
normal, because that's what happens when you get really anxious, those things get elevated, and you can't make decisions at that
No, you're
moment.
flooded. Mhm.
Exactly. So when people
Yep.
try to make decisions or, obviously we're not gonna go too much into this, but, like, they're like, "I wanna manifest," and then they're, like, going at it through, like, this psychotic state of, like, "Ah!" Like,
Mhm.
your intuition actually will shut off. It won't be available. So it
Mhm.
is getting back to those states. And then, what do you need that day? I think, again, like you said, we overcomplicate it. No, maybe you just need to go, like, chill out and be done for the night. You go to
Mhm.
bed, and tomorrow morning you'll feel a lot better, but, um, yeah, I agree. It's, like, kinda what works for you, but, yes, I think if you could share that, I think that would be great, like a
I would
little
be happy to. Yeah.
resource.
Mhm.
'Cause I think it's helpful too, especially, with your population and then my
Mhm.
population. A huge
Mhm.
part of what I teach is nervous system regulation and understanding it, like, so you can know when you do feel that way, because I don't care how long you're, getting help and healing. We're all human. We have our moments where we're
Mhm.
going to kind of fly off and things are going to get crazy. And then again, having that awareness and going, "Oh, yeah." Because again, it's like a muscle, right? We have to build it, like, to have that awareness.
Yeah.
Like, even now, I still have my moments. It's not like I'm like, "Oh, yes, now that I'm sober,
Oh,
everything is perfect."
totally. Absolutely. I mean, I just a couple of weeks ago, I think in the coaching container that you and I met in, I was talking about how I'm so reactive and I don't know what's shifted, what's wrong, but I had to like really think about it. Something's going on with me right now and I'm not sure what it is, so I had to actually take some time in stillness. So for me, that's one of the things that I do is I just sit and I'm still, which is really difficult for a person like me. I'm an Enneagram 1 who does. I'm a doer. And so being still, really difficult for me. But that's where I get my downloads. That's where once I'm able to still myself and listen,
Yeah.
I can go, oh, well, now I get it. That makes sense. I feel this way because, this happened and it triggered me. Basically, what had happened was I found out some information that actually sent me back to a previous experience. And it's not something that I feel like I can talk about right now yet in the open. But at the
Yeah, of
same
course.
time, what was really interesting about it is I started being reactive to everybody around me. And that's how I started noticing this isn't okay. This isn't me. This isn't normal me. Like I've moved beyond this. So what triggered me? So I had to do some kind of like be with myself to figure it out. And that's what we fear doing and why we use in the first place. As an adoptee, as a person who drinks, it's I don't want to be with me to figure out what is actually going on. That's a part of accepting ourselves, is allowing ourselves to be our own best friend.
Yep. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I just love everything you are saying, and then all the work that you're doing too. I think it's really neat, and just getting those downloads too. So I
Mhm.
think, for the listeners, where can they find you? I'm gonna share everything below, though, of
Right?
course.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, it's all gonna be
Yeah.
shared below, so
It
you don't
will
have to
be in the
memorize
show
it.
notes. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'll obviously share that with you. I have a website. So you can definitely interact with me there. I love DMing with people. I truly do. I love providing support. I just feel like I've been put on this earth to do that, to help and to guide and I don't know if you know human design much,
Mhm.
that system. I'm a manifesting generator who's a 4-6. So the six piece is that whole like regal authority figure. And when I first read that, I'm like, what does that even mean? But there's this leadership in me that feels the need to kind of like go first and be the one who attempts something. And so I'm not really sure why I said that there, but I did. And so if anybody wants to come into my DMs and chat with me, please feel free to do that because I really love it. So, yeah.
No, I do too, and I always say, like, light workers, right? Like, people some of us are put on this earth to, share our stories and hope and to shed light on what's possible, right? Because we've been in these little places and then we can show you what's on the other side. So it's just
Yeah,
you're doing it a little bit different than I'm doing it, but it's all at the end of the day, we're light workers.
yeah.
Oh, I can't remember her name. It's going to bother me, but she's, talks a lot about the soul. Not Mel Wells, but who's the other one? Rebecca Campbell. If you don't know her, she has a YouTube channel, she has books, but she has, like, the best accent ever, but she
Nah.
talks a lot about light workers and soul more of, like, soul work, and she talks a lot about that, so I always recommend people look at her stuff, because it's just beautiful and, like, even all of her designs are aesthetically pleasing, they're so pretty. So
Yeah,
I don't know
I
why I
love
got
that.
into that, but
Hey, it's all right. It's good stuff. I'll look up Rebecca Campbell at the end of this. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah, she has some
love
fun
that stuff.
meditations, on YouTube as well, so it's and she has, like, a whole community, but, like, um, I love YouTube, I feel like they have so much free
Mhm.
stuff
Yeah.
that's, like, so good.
Oh,
But
I'm
maybe
also on YouTube. I forgot about that. I have a YouTube too. I can send that to you. I forgot about that. And I put stuff on there every single week.
Oh,
So,
cool, yeah, share
yeah.
it, I'll share it all with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on and sharing about the adoptees and about some of the statistics and just, getting to connect with you and learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah. It's been wonderful. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks everybody, and everybody have a good day, night, wherever you're at.
Mhm.